Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Are Manchester City in crisis?
Yes, it's that time again. Manchester City in crisis. We're going to do a reaction video to see what Mark Goldbridge has to say about Manchester City's current situation. Let's see what he has to say, man. Who knows? He might talk some sense.
Who's going to win the Premier League? I got that the wrong way round, but the fact
already made an error.
The same. Man, it feels like every year at this time. I think last season I did it, and the year before.
You did.
We do a video.
We do. Nah, he does do it, man. He does every single year. Man City in crisis video. 2023, 2022, 2021, every single time. Anyway, let's see if he speaks facts.
Crisis, and then they go and win the league. So
yeah, that's true.
Very aware of
that. Means that actually this might be a positive jinx for us.
that. But also, they've just lost 2 games in a row for the first time in about 6 years. So facts. They are in a crisis. Now, whether it's a
crisis,
permanent crisis or a mini crisis, that's to be discussed. One thing I would say at the start is I don't do videos for shock tactics. I don't start coming out with stupid statements about Man City are done, they fell off, or, Arsenal are going to win the league now. That's not what I do. There's no point in doing that. But what I do is look at it.
What I do. Your comments. We really need to, as an English language, we really need another word to help us out in that situation. Because the amount of times people say, I do. You know what I mean? We really need to evolve. You know what I mean? This language has been going, 1,000 years, 2,000 years? I don't know. I'm not a historian, innit? Surely there's another word that we can put in there instead of saying I do. Because it's just not right.
It's in it, and let's have a proper conversation about it. Because there is some sensational crap out there. I mean, this talk about Erling Haaland falling off is incredibly naive. Erling Haaland's the best striker in the world. I said this on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. He is the best striker in the world, and he still is today. And he was yesterday, and he will be tomorrow. If you are a striker and you play in a team that gives you no service, your XG will be 0, your shots on target will be 0, and you will wake up the next day to pictures of Saliba having you in the pocket.
Oh my God, he's speaking facts! Holy shit! No way is he's speaking facts, people! I can't believe what he's saying! This is all true!
With the car keys. There was no service to Erling Haaland yesterday, and he is not a striker that drops deep.
Oh, he's been watching. He watches my videos, man. I swear exactly what I've been saying, Brev. This is exactly what I've been saying. The joy that because I've not watched this video. This is the first time I've watched it. The joy I'm getting from this, not hearing him waffle like some other people are doing, saying he's not doing enough. He needs to drop deep and play like Harry Kane. Oh my God, we need to listen to him more. What else is he saying?
And scores. He is not a striker that shoots from 40 yards in the top corner. He is a service striker. And if you deprive them of service, he will not score goals. So it's incredibly naive, and it has to just go down as banter when people are saying Haaland's finished, because he's not. He's always been about service. And if he played up front for United last year, he'd have a lot of games like he did yesterday for Arsenal. If he played up front for Bournemouth, he'd have a lot of games like he did against Arsenal, because he requires service.
Facts.
That's how you build a team like Man City. It's very important that every part goes together, and it just didn't work yesterday. Manchester City's biggest problem at the moment is not even De Bruyne. Rodri is the engine room of that team.
Mate, I might have to subscribe to this That's Football, because this is all facts so far. I mean, there's still a few minutes where it could get a bit iffy, but he's right. Kevin De Bruyne was never an issue. I was never worried when Kevin De Bruyne got injured against Burnley, because I knew that we didn't really need him in this part of the season. It's at the back end of the season where you need him, because that's where he comes alive, and that's when he'll be available. Rodri, I describe him as the cog of the team. He is the cog that keeps everything turning. You take that out, boom. The attack ain't turning with the defence, and the midfield is a bit dodgy. So this is, again, factual information.
Last year, Casemiro should have won Player of the Year for Man United. Rashford won it for his goals. But everybody knows who watched United last season that Casemiro was the conductor. He protected the defence, and he
has fallen off now, Casemiro, though, hasn't he? I don't know what's wrong with him, but he has completely fallen off.
Right. Like Rodri.
Well, I don't know. Maybe that's harsh. She's being nice here. She'll probably lay off.
Midfielder in the world. He's absolutely incredible. Manchester City's
Truth.
ability to win games without him is, there factually in the stats. They struggle. When he's there, they don't. So when he comes back, Man City will be fine. But Man City are in a mini crisis, like they are. And whether it's going to be permanent or not, one thing that is worth looking at is that when they come back from the international break, yes, they've got they've got Brighton at home. I mean, you'd say it's winnable. It's a very winnable game, but it's Brighton at home. It's not necessarily easy. Man United away after that. So Man City come back from 2 losses in a row and face 2 games where, look, they'll probably beat Brighton and they'll probably beat Man United.
You know what, though? I'd argue this is exactly what we need. You know what I mean? Because Rodri's back. If we didn't have Rodri, then I wouldn't say this. But because Rodri is now back, I'd argue that actually this is what we need. We need to play teams that are difficult to play against. You know what I mean? Like Brighton. I'd say Man United are not typically difficult to play against. They just play in a way that we find it difficult. But yeah, this is what we need, man. I say the same thing about Chelsea. Chelsea have got Arsenal first game back from the international break. Sometimes, I think people sometimes look at games and go, "Oh yeah, we want an easy game." I don't always think easy games are the way to go, because sometimes you just need the players to stand up in the dressing room before a match and say, 99% won't suffice. Every single player in this dressing room today who gets on the pitch has to play at their maximum ability. And it sort of galvanises everyone. It can start a little bit of a mini run. So it is difficult, but I actually think this is exactly what we need.
Not at Old Trafford, but, the world and I am like, bloody hell. It's a Manchester derby. We've done it before. We beat City with Ollie. We beat City with Mourinho. We can do it. We can do it. We did it with Ten Hag last year. We can do it. So Brighton,
bit of dodgy decision, but we'll allow it.
Brighton can do it as well. So you start to think, well, bloody hell, if Man City don't win their next 2 games, that gap gets bigger in the league as well. But it doesn't get much better than that. Because, all right, they've got Bournemouth at home after that, but then they play Chelsea, Liverpool, and then they play, in early December, Spurs and Villa. So, look, in their next 7 games, they've got Liverpool, Villa, Chelsea, Spurs, Brighton, and Manchester United.
Facts.
Look, Man City are capable of winning all those games. We know they are, but they are in a crisis. They've lost 2 in a row. There's a vulnerability there. They're not scoring goals. And Rodri coming back will help, and De Bruyne coming back will help, and they're still a really, really good team. But there's a massive opportunity there. There's an opportunity for the Arsenals. And
I disagree that we're in a crisis. I don't think we're in a crisis. I think that the current situation, I wouldn't describe it as a crisis, but I would describe it as a situation which you do not wish to remain. Basically, saying that if you don't beat Brighton and Manchester United, then that can turn into a crisis, because then that's 4 games, right? And then obviously by that point, you could be, 10 points potentially, 8 points behind Tottenham and Arsenal. So I don't think we're in a crisis right now, but I think the position that we are currently in dictates that if you do not win the next games, you then could be in a crisis. That's my position on it. I don't think we're in a crisis yet. I just think we are potentially heading to a crisis. However, hopefully now that Rodri's back, hopefully we'll be able to
the Liverpools and everybody else. But the problem is they'll probably start beating each other, won't they? Which is great as long as Man City don't run away with it. Do I think Man City are not going to win the league this year? Absolutely not. I think they will win the league. I think that the thing about Manchester City is they always, and that's why I mentioned it at the start, they always drop points in the autumn. And that is why I've done this video for 3 years in a row now. And that is why in May, I'll probably be saying they've won the league for 3 years in a row. They will hit
4 years in a row. 4 years in a row. We've already done 3 years in a row, Bray. Unless you're talking about his videos. But we are going to win it 4 years in a row, hopefully.
January, and everybody will expect Man City to just time it to perfection like Pep does. The fitness, the mentality, the consistency, and suddenly they don't really.
And the Kevin De Bruyne return, he comes back in mid-January, late January. I mean, that's obviously going to be great timing for us as well.
See, they do get stronger when they've got the likes of De Bruyne back. But there is an opportunity there for teams. And I think when you look at those next few games where they play Brighton, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, Villa, they've got to drop points in 2 of those games. They have to drop points in those 2 games, because if they lose a couple more games before Christmas, it will open it up a little bit more. And other teams have got to be consistent.
That's fair.
Consistent. But the one thing I feel I haven't done,
Oh, here we
it's
go.
easy to say Man City are in a crisis.
Here we go. Here we go. Are we about to get absolutely roasted now? What?
It's easy to say they'll bounce back and win the league in the new year. But is there a bigger problem with Manchester City in relation to...
Here we go.
I felt last year it was a transition. Jesus, Zinchenko left, Sterling left, and I thought, Erling Haaland comes in, but does it automatically work? And I felt that last season was a transitional season for Man City, and yet they still won the treble. This is a transitional season as well. I think Mahrez was always massively, massively underrated.
Correct.
I think Gundogan...
Correct. Said that at the time when he left. Said people are underestimating just how good this guy is.
Is a player that also was superb for...
Club messed up on that. There was loads of people in the comments on Twitter saying, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. The club offered him the contract. No, we didn't. We didn't offer him the contract that he wanted, as evidenced by his recent interview where he said City didn't offer him the contract early enough. Probably would have stayed if we would have offered him the contract that he wanted early enough.
For them last season. So that's two players straight away that you go,
True.
Well, that they
It's a
are
fair
a loss.
point.
They're a loss to Manchester City. They've still brought players in like Kovacic, Vardiel's come in as well. Alvarez is better, but I don't think they're weaker. I think that there's always the opportunity, and I'm using that word a lot because it is an opportunity for everybody. There's always that opportunity that Man City may not transition as well as they did last year.
That's completely fair. I think that's completely fair because ultimately we have lost Gundogan and we have lost Mahrez. Laporte obviously didn't really play last year anyway. And that is going to hurt anyone. And as good as Kovacic can be, and he's very experienced, he's not as good as Gundogan, And Doku is going to be a fantastic player for this football club. I have no doubt about that. But he's still only, 21? And he's very inexperienced. He's not really played that many minutes, even for Stade Rennes when he was there. So that's going to take some time. On top of that, we've had a Rodri suspension. On top of that, we've had Kevin De Bruyne out since the first game of the season. So, of course, there's going to be an element of transition when so much of the team is left. In fact, my mate sent me a stat yesterday to say 50% of the minutes played by Manchester City this year by players have been new players. So players that weren't here last year. So that just tells you that, of course, we're in a transition. So given the fact we're only 2 points off the top of the table, when we're in transition, I think that's pretty okay,
When they lost a few players. And maybe that will happen. But on the other hand, I still think they are the best team in the world. And I still think it would be a huge surprise if they weren't up there again in May, because they've got the know-how, they've got the quality, and they've certainly got the players. And
Yeah, I
feel
agree.
that it would be wrong to suddenly think that this isn't going to be their year again. But what I would say is the next few weeks will really make us decide whether they are human, whether they are gettable, because at the moment they're gettable.
Again, I think that's a fair comment. I think, Brighton now coming up and Man United, Bournemouth, these are games that City have to win, otherwise we will be in a crisis. Because if you don't win against Brighton and Man United, or you say you lose one of them or lose two, you've only lost either three or 4 games. If you lose them both, it's 4 games. We only lost 5 in the whole of last season. So you could potentially be on 4, maybe 3, maybe none. That's what I'm saying. I don't think we're in a crisis yet, but we could be in one if we don't, start winning.
They've lost 2 games in a row. There are games coming up. I think United have got to get them. We've got to get them at Old Trafford in a couple of weeks. I think Brighton at the Etihad have got to, go there and get them. They've not, I remember Fulham at Fulham should have gone in at half-time 1-1. The offside that wasn't offside changes the game. So teams have pushed City a little bit this season, and that's why they've lost a couple of games. And I think in certain other games they've been a bit vulnerable as well. So, as I say, opportunity is the word. It is a crisis for Manchester City.
It's not a crisis.
Of course it's a crisis for Manchester City. Anybody who says it's not is a fool, because they've...
Oh, I'm a fool! No, I don't think it's a crisis. Like I say, for me, it's not a crisis. But if we're close to a crisis. Like I say, we're entering the crisis. You know what I mean? We're on the entrance. He's checking our ticket and he's saying, welcome to crisis. But we're just not quite ready to go in yet. But we're very close. We're just being scanned by the metal detectors. Hopefully, we'll have some metal in our pocket and we'll get turned away. And we will not enter the arena of crisis. But we potentially could enter the arena of crisis very soon.
Lost 2 games in a row, and they've just lost to Arsenal. And that never happens. The master always beats the apprentice, and that didn't happen this time. So it is a mini crisis for Manchester City. Do I think it will turn into a bigger one? I hope so, but I think history has shown us, recent history, that they will bounce back from this because they always do lose a game or two in autumn, and then in the new year it's bye-bye everybody else. And I still think, not only do I think they'll win the league, I also think there's a very, very realistic possibility that come May, they might be doing a double treble. So, let's not dismiss them completely yet.
I don't think so. I think we'll win I think this year we'll miss out on the FA Cup, but we might win that Club World Cup. So it's still a treble, and some would argue it's a better treble. Some of you guys will be like, no, FA Cup is better than the Club World Cup. I ain't going to disagree with you. I'm just saying some people might view the Club World Cup as a more... In fact, that's a good question for the comments. What is more prestigious, the Club World Cup or the FA Cup? If we was to do the treble again, would you rather do the FA Cup or the Club World Cup? That's some question that I never thought I'd be asking myself 15 years ago.
But look, they're vulnerable at the moment. They're gettable at the moment. And as I said, those run of games they've got coming up, I mean, if they go and win all those games, you may as well give them the title. Like Villa, Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester United, Brighton. There's 6 games there that are difficult. At least 2 of those teams have got to take points from them. And if they do, then we'll be sat here at Christmas saying we've got a title race. And that's what we want because we all love football. Make sure you smash the like and get your...
Well, I've got to say, on the whole, I don't think he was speaking that much nonsense. Bit upset that he called me a fool. I think that was a little bit uncalled for, to be honest with you. I don't recall saying anything bad about him in the past, but hey, maybe I have. Maybe that's deserved. To summarise, I don't think we're in a crisis. I think we are close to potentially being in a crisis if we were to lose our next games. Because then, obviously, like I say, you would almost equal your losses for the whole of last season in October. So, anyone saying at that point you're not in a crisis when you've lost 4 games and last year you lost 5 in October, that you would be a fool saying that. But I don't think we're quite in a crisis. I think we're like I say, we're on the peripherals of it. And other than that, I think, to be fair, I think he was quite right in what he was saying. We miss Rodri more than we miss Kevin De Bruyne at the moment. That's absolutely factual information. And I thought it was all right there, wasn't he, guys? It was all right. So, guys, let me know in the comment section below. Are Manchester City in a crisis? And the other one today, would you rather win the FA Cup or the Club World Cup? I'm interested to see where you guys are on that question. Guys, if you have enjoyed this video, as always, do me a massive favour and smash that like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as well. Massively helps support me. I think we're close now to 8.4k. We're closing on a 9, and then it's a big one, 10k. And all I'll say is, have a great rest of your day. See you in a bit.